Hello, I'm Philip Stoughton. I'm here at the Scoop Studio at SMTAI in Chicago, and I'm joined by three women to talk about women in technology. We have Priyanka from Intel. Thanks for joining me. Mari from IBM and MB from Kick. Thanks, everybody. What I wanted to do was focus on some of the positive things that have been happening. You had a very successful Women in Manufacturing Day yesterday. Just if I can go along the line, give me some examples of some of the positive things you've seen and the positive change you've seen recently in the way women have been able to operate in our industry.
I think there have been great mentorship programs, encouragement for women to find mentors, find sponsors. There are so many courses that are being offered, free of charge at many companies. And you can just, if you want to develop, you can just go and join them and learn so much. And ability to travel and go to conferences itself, it gives a huge amount of exposure. And I think those are all positives.
Yeah.
And specifically, when I asked to, with Mari to start this women leadership program, we got so much support from SMT and Rob Rowland, Rayo, and Mike Buta, who actually published this in a magazine to support this program. So
yeah.
I think
that's really important. And you mentioned mentorship and sponsorship. Tell me what you mean specifically by those two separate.
So I asked the same question yesterday to Alison, who actually presented in Women Leadership Program. There is a difference. Mentors are basically, you go and get advice and they share their experiences, tell you what is good or bad and what you need to improve. Sponsors are a little bit more than that. They will open more doors for you. If there is a meeting which is with the upper management and they think that you are the expert, they will recommend your name and they will bring you there, so they give that kind of exposure. If there is an event which you can probably lead and they have the ability and they believe in you, they will let you do that. So this sponsorship is a little bit more than mentorship.
Yeah. And Mari, from your point of view, you've seen lots of change over the last few years, both within IBM and externally. What do you think have been the key changes, and what are you seeing that's positive?
Well, I think to echo some of the comments that Priyanka made, just to find the forums like we had yesterday at the SMTA International Conference where we can bring the women together and they can meet each other, find those mentors, understand how they might cultivate sponsors in their own companies or in the industry so that they can build their eminence, particularly technical eminence for our women who want to achieve as engineers and showcase their technical talents. I think it's also important that people are realizing that the women or whoever the minority group is, they can't do it on their own. It really takes the recognition of the majority and the support of the majority that bringing along the minority population, in this case, focusing specifically on women, is part of their duty also. And so I think we've found better allies, we've formed better relationships with those men who are supportive of our efforts. And I think that's also been evident as our women's leadership program has evolved here at SMTA International. For instance, for the past 2 years, we have included the male point of view on our panel discussion. And it's very enlightening for them to hear the women around them speak, but also enlightening for us to hear how they are supporting us and their ideas on how we can advance in our careers and become more visible and really try to bridge that gap so that we can all collaborate better and move forward.
And Mary Beth, from your point of view, you're out and about with selling to lots of engineers, hopefully. How has that changed? How has that changed in the last 10 years in terms of the number of male and female engineers you meet?
I've seen just a huge change from when I first started in this industry. I remember in San Diego, I was a salesperson very new to the industry, and there was one female in San Diego, as far as I knew from all of the manufacturing facilities there are. But you mentioned mentorship, and my mentor was a male engineer, and I never had felt uncomfortable. As a matter of fact, I felt welcomed. And even at that time, technology was changing, and the majority of the people I was working with were engineers, and they were all very willing to teach me. And I don't think it had anything to do with me being a female. I think it was just that engineers are very sharing people. They're very knowledgeable, and they like to share what they know. And for me, it was a tremendous learning experience. And over the course of the years, I became more technical because of that, and now I'm in a product management role, which is due to the fact of working, as you said, Phil, with so many engineers over the time. But as I travel now, I see more and more female engineers, and in much higher places as well, with responsibility for changing things throughout an entire factory, not necessarily one piece of equipment or one department, but in the whole larger scope, inclusive of global facilities that have multinational facilities that women are involved in that as well. So to me, it's great. I love to see it, especially here at the show as well. Used to be there were not that many people walking around that were female, and now it's just great. And the organization that you're doing here at SMTAI too is just awesome.
Yeah, it does a great job. And it's interesting you mentioned mentorship. I've done some mentoring recently in Guadalajara for startups at the Plug and Play Center, and it's been really fascinating. At that millennial level, absolutely no difference. Men and women, they don't see any difference. What I'm kind of curious and interested in is how men can get involved in supporting your groups, how men can be part of that mentorship group, because I think previously it's looked like the outreach has been mainly to females supporting females. Is that something that's starting to change?
Yeah, actually, many of, I would say half of the mentors that I have or sponsor are actually men. And as I was saying, I went, if I went up to ask something and they helped me and then they guided me again, I just kept going again and again, and that's how the mentorship relationship built. So it is really, I did not find them in any kind of networking event, or it was just based on as I was in a need of something and I went and asked, and then they just kept helping me, and it just evolved like that.
And Mari, when you look at, for example, yesterday's event, Women in Manufacturing, as a man you're probably thinking, I'm not supposed to go there. How do you get men involved in that? And if men do want to support your program, how do they go about doing that?
Well, it's very important, as I mentioned earlier, for the men to be aware of some of the challenges that we face, and that we need their support and we need their recognition. And it runs everything from just the very simplest action to structured programs within your company. So a couple of examples. Very simple action. One thing that many women talk about universally as a challenge to them in meetings, and this is not just technical environment, but any place where a woman is in the minority, is not being listened to, with coming up with an idea, and the next thing they know, their male colleague across the table mentions the same idea and gets all the credit, right? So it comes from as simple an action as your male colleague next to you supporting your idea. If I come up with an idea and Joe is sitting next to me and he says, Marie, that is a great idea, team, I think we should take that forward. Or when someone does talk over you, instead of putting it on the woman who maybe is feeling a little less confident, that this supporter, Joe, steps up and says, hey, I think Priyanka has something to add to the conversation here. Let's include everyone in the conversation. And then sort of at the other extreme of structured programs is not to rely on happenstance for these mentoring and sponsorship relationships to develop, but to actually seek male colleagues, male leaders who are interested in developing the female population and recruit them to be formal mentors, to match them to be a formal sponsor. So there's a wide variety of things that the men can do to support the advancement of women.
Okay. Mary Beth, when you look at that from a point of view of the people you meet, I guess one of the keys is just actually promoting stuff that other women are doing, actually saying, hey, that's a really good thing, or making sure they're promoted in the media. What I'm also interested in is how the groups of women and men kind of work together. You're in a smallish company, very innovative company. How does it work with everybody having a voice there? And my sense is that innovation just works better when you have as diverse a group as possible, from a market point of view, but also from the way we think of ideas. Is that the case within your organization?
It's an interesting question. We are a bit unusual in our organization, and in that we have a ton of autonomy, and it's always been that way, from the owners of our company to our president, and all of us share that, so we pass that on as well. So if I have a group of people that I'm working with, you need to have the confidence in the people and let them have that autonomy. But you mentioned something about being listened to, and I think that's really important. So the same example, the same way you would like to have that, is important for us to take that upon ourselves and give the other person the opportunity to say what they feel and to express themselves. And I do believe it's on us also to be somewhat assertive in taking your place and identifying what your role is, because it's not going to be given to you, and I don't think it matters if you're male or female in that case. You know, you could be a very smart engineer, but if you don't put yourself out there and you don't let yourself be heard, you're not going to get any more recognition than whether you're male or female. So I think it is our responsibility.
So there's a lot of resources out there. One of the challenges, not just with women, but generally, is getting kids into STEM education, but particularly young women. What kind of programs are in place to support that? And particularly Intel and IBM, do you have the kind of outreach to academia programs that support students?
Yeah, there is a huge group of volunteers actually at Intel, and I see like there are matching programs where you put out whatever hours that you put, they match it, and then they are supporting organizations like SWE and all those, So I got involved with SWE, and I actually started doing outreach activities for them, and then it just I really believe in making a strong pipeline from the beginning itself, and that's what our focus was. So we use resources from from our own learnings, and started encouraging young kids to choose a career in STEM.
Yeah, it's really a big challenge, because we're going to need more and more engineers. That's one thing that all these smart factory initiatives have taught us. We need more engineers, more data processors.
Right. So if we ignore 50% of our population, we'll really be behind in our workforce. And as Priyanka mentioned, IBM is also very supportive of STEM outreach programs. We actively participate in the Discovery Engineers Week initiatives. And in the springtime, although Engineers Week may be designated as 1 week, I would say our team spends from mid-February through May going out to do school visits, starting with the elementary schools all the way up to the high schools, and reaching out to the science classes at the higher levels. But really, it's most important to get out there at the elementary school and the middle school and reaching all of the students and just putting some fun into engineering and relating engineering to their daily life and learning how to solve problems, how to approach problems. And we do really try to recruit for our teams that are going to visit the schools to make sure that we have women, to make sure that we have new hires, because of course the millennial population can probably relate much better to some of the younger students. So there's a lot of effort by many of the large corporations in these outreach activities. Priyanka also mentioned SWE. SWE is a great, Society of Women Engineers is a great organization promoting outreach to girls for engineering, computer programming, all types of STEM.
Yeah, just on the association side, are they all working very well together? There's a lot of WITI and women in manufacturing, different groups, girls that code, all kinds of different groups. Are you seeing crossover from them where they're all helping each other with best practices?
I think they are definitely complementary. I can't say that I'm aware of like an overriding organization that kind of brings together the leaders from the different groups, but certainly they have many of the same goals and face some of the same challenges, and I think they do share best practices and have some members that perhaps are members of more than one organization and help to bring some of that information across the organizations.
Okay, and one more question for everybody. I'm going to start with Mary Beth. From a point of view of the whole kind of ecosystem, what's the one thing that you think you can do to improve the plight of women in technology, and what's the one thing that you think everybody else should be doing? And sorry to put you on the spot and let you go first. These two have got thinking time.
Because as we were all talking, I did think of something what I have seen that people are doing, and that is utilizing college internships, bringing them into their manufacturing environment and giving them a specific assignment that matches what their goals are, and then keeping them on after they're done. And I've seen that a lot all across the country lately, and I think that's one thing for the second part of your question, that what can I do? What are people doing? And that's one of the things I've seen. What can I do as an individual is I travel a lot, and so keep your ears open, make sure that you meet a lot of people, introduce myself so that if there's opportunities that do come up, I have different resources to go to or to share with other people when I see a job opportunity, and especially if it's a woman.
It's creating a strong network, isn't it? Mari, from your point of view?
Well, in my position as a very experienced technical executive, I think the most important thing that I can continue to do is to mentor, but even more importantly is to look for more sponsorship opportunities. I do look at our pipeline of technical women leaders and really try to support their careers and help move their careers along to make more opportunities for them. Then you also asked, what can everyone do? And I think that's this movement of not just focusing on diversity, but focusing on the inclusion aspect of diversity. And that crosses more than just gender boundaries. And I think some of the newer ways of working, like employing the principles of design thinking, where you really try to get contributions from all team members, and have everybody be equal sitting at the table. I think everyone can work on those types of efforts and just improve our innovation overall.
Yeah. Priyanka, last word for you.
So I think I definitely can do one thing, is giving back. Same thing. Even in the early stage of career, after 5 or 6 years, you have enough experience that you can share with somebody who is just joining the industry, and you can tell them that, what are the opportunities out there that have benefited you, and that is certainly anybody can do. And one thing that everybody else, I think it makes a whole lot of difference when senior leaders or people higher up in the company, they support and provide opportunities to people not only at level comparatively higher to entry level, but it really makes a difference to all those who are not that higher up, but they are still believing in them, and that is very, very encouraging. And I've been really fortunate that some people have believed in me and supported me, and that just changed my whole perspective. So I think that is very beneficial.
Yeah, and from my point of view, I look at it and I think, well, mentorship opportunities are really key, and it doesn't matter whether you're male or female, you can still mentor, you can still network. The network's hugely important, and the last thing I think from an overall point of view is embrace the difference. Diverse teams really do work, particularly in innovation, particularly when you're looking to create something new and disruptive and exciting in the market. Ladies, thank you so much for talking to me. Thank you for your time, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.